Alright guys, Sahel here with another video. I hope all is well with you guys. So, I know I haven't really talked about the gender war topics and the male and female dynamics as of late. Maybe perhaps I'll go back to doing that, but for now I'm more on the geopolitical side of things. Basically due to where I'm now living at, and basically due to the simple fact that I am now my focus is shift because, the thing is, most of the stuff that you see happening with the gender relations is in America. It's in the West. That's the thing. Here, it's different. And as I said before, I'm not saying my mental fortitude wasn't strong enough to endure what was in the West. I just figured that my mental fortitude could have been channeled towards something else better. And now I can do so here where I'm at. So with this being put aside, with it being put aside, I want to get into the video. The thing is, I asked my teacher, I asked my sheikh, because I noticed this, and I wasn't the only one that noticed this. I noticed that there was an uptick in jihadism in the Sahel, okay, in Mali, in Niger, in Nigeria, in Burkina Faso. All of a sudden, there's an uptick in it. All of a sudden, there's an uptick in attack when it comes to these areas. And granted, I have a big family. I have people in my family who are actively fighting in the military, in the Navy, against these jihadists in the Sahel. I asked my teacher, who was a very learned teacher, very learned, a very good scholar, a historian. I asked him, and pertaining to these groups, these jihadist groups, how are we supposed to deal with them? And he said that they are muharibun. And what does muharibun means? It means they're brigands. It means that their blood is lawful. It means that you can fight them to liquidate them. And I looked at the chapter he told me to look in a book that is in pertaining to this matter and pertaining to Islamic governance. And the author of that book took from the original sources, and hence the conclusion was made about muharibun. Now, when it comes to these brigands, unfortunately, there are some people who support them, and those being from my own tribe who support them, because sometimes there are members of my tribe who are in these groups. Now, what I will say is that while I love my tribe, while I try to adhere to the customs of my tribe, because they pretty much align with Islam, there's no way in hell I can support insurgencies. But now what I want to talk about is, why is there an uptick in insurgencies all of a sudden in the Sahel? It's weird to me. They're just upticking, more attacks. It seems like new groups are coming out. There was a new group in Nigeria that splintered off from Boko Haram and what they call ISWAP or something like that. This is weird to me. The only conclusion I can draw from it is that the only conclusion that can be drawn from this is that perhaps, how should I say it? In terms of the Burkina Faso and the Niger and the Mali situation, it's just France's, United States, and Great Britain's way of interfering with the process that they're trying to undertake. And when it comes to Nigeria, it's France, Britain, and America's way of saying, don't get any ideas. You're not going to be able to do what your neighbors are doing, or we're not going to let you try to do what your neighbors are trying to do. This is my thoughts. And the reason why I think like this is because of the history of United States and Britain and France in Africa, and just in the third world in general. There's verses in the Quran that allude to their actions. There's verses in the Quran that talk about people who say they bring peace, but they only bring chaos. They only bring chaos. Now, that's also happening in, I want to say, on a micro level, back to the gender thing. There's some feminists who will say, we care about men, care about men's well-being. These men need to go to therapy, but really they don't give a shit. Really, they want to destroy man's being. That's what they want to do. So it's the same playbook that's done before. It's sad, but this is how it works, fortunately. Now on the flip side, and this is going to be a short video, I don't need to make it long. I'm just trying to get straight cut to the chase that the insurgencies are not a indigenous job. It's a job by many people outside of it, outside of the country. Maybe there are some involved inside the country with insurgency who want to perhaps profit off of the little that they will get from assisting the West. Now, I want to say this in regards to this issue. I think that's ironic. It's very ironic. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, he just went to Arabia to get more money from them. The crazy thing about the Arabian landscape is it's liberalizing. It's becoming, quote unquote, what they call a Shangri-La. Yes, a Shangri-La of Western companies. Even on my layover in Sharjah, Dubai, or UAE, it was as if it was more Western than it was Arabia. Ironically, as crazy as it sounds, they're trying to distance themselves from extremism when there is actually the home of extremism. We see that with Syria, with the president who, the de facto president, I'm not going to even call him the president, he's a de facto president. We see it with the de facto president, what's his name, Giuliani, okay? There's pictures of him that he had child soldiers. There's actually pictures of him with child soldiers when he was part of the hardline terrorist group, which was actually responsible for the terror in Syria that Bashar al-Assad was trying to prevent. He was actually trying to keep the country in a sovereign way. That's what he was trying to do. Fortunately, it didn't happen. Now, it's ironic that the president of Syria, he just met with Donald Trump and they lifted the sanctions, and now he's free to beg for the same IMF, World Bank debt trap that they set other countries in. But it's very, very ironic that now these same hardliners are becoming softer in the Middle East. But now the key target area is not only the Sahel, but West Africa as a whole, for extremism to flourish. And the reason why is because West Africa, and I'll just say the Sahel, it's tired of being subservient to the West, whereas the Jazira al-Arab, which includes Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, UAE, does not mind being subservient. Therefore, its liberalization is not being called out by many people who follow quote-unquote Salafism or Wahhabism or Mudkhaliism because of the nationality of the people who are liberalizing. I say this to say that many Muslims have this in their heart. They have Arabism in their heart without even being Arabs. I think because Islam came from what Islam was in the Arabian Peninsula and established in the Arabian Peninsula, that the Arab himself can do no wrong. But I guess they have a dissidence that it was the Arabs who were giving the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu salam his hardest, most difficult time. It was the pagan Arabs who sided with the Yahuds and the Christians to try to destroy the banner of Islam when the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu salam was alive. I guess they forget these things. Or when he was on this plane, let's just say that, when he was on this plane. And the history repeats itself with Israel making, I guess you could say, making ways in Arabian Peninsula and in the Levant, with the Syrian government pretty much doing Trump's asking by talking about it's going to recognize the Abraham Accords. So where does this leave Africa? The Sahel, North Africa, West Africa. Unfortunately, it leaves it at the dumping ground of these jihadists. It's happening in Libya right now. If I were a black person, I wouldn't set foot in Libya. It's not safe. It's underreported, but Libya is very much in a civil war right now. So it needs to be said that, unfortunately, I believe, and this is something I still believe, I believe that these armed groups that you see, these insurgencies, are still somehow being financed or bankrolled by the Gulf Arab states in a coalition of the French and the Americans. Because if you don't want to be subservient and you're a minority group, meaning a black group or a brown group, then you're asking for trouble. Hence why the Palestinians are going through, Palestinians are going through what they're going through. And I'm going to end this by saying one more thing about this situation. Like what happened in Syria, where most of the people who were with Jolani were foreign fighters, be it from the Caucasus, be it from Central Asia, even be it from China. There's also foreign fighters in Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda Maghreb and the insurgencies in Burkina Faso. In fact, my uncle, who's in the forces, said that he actually interrogated a white dude who he found with Boko Haram, instructing them on certain different methods. So with this being said, I'm gonna end by saying the West in general does not want African sovereignty and African progression. Now, the local citizens of the West, be it America and Europe, are in large, they believe that, their government, and they believe that actually, like, they're past their racist inclinations, when unfortunately that's the farthest thing from the truth. They still have the racist inclinations, and they still, through their actions, are showing the racist inclinations, okay? What they do to Africa, what they do to other countries in the global south is not only based on global hegemony, it's not only based on economy, it's based on racism as well, okay? That's what it's based on. And you may say, well, there's interracial marriages going on in the United States and what have you. While that may be true, let your cause conflict with your partner's cause and see what happens. Hence, when you see a black woman with a white dude, and she's not a Trump supporter, but he is, and he's not going to wither away from supporting Trump, or he's not going to change his tune in voting for him. But with that being said, it must be said that there's an uptick, because it's the same games of the West, same playbook, and all we can do is pray and fight and be diligent in the fight. But with that that being said, Fula signing out, Sahel signing out. Shout out.